Hi, I'm Greg Columbus. My guest at this time is John Whitehead. He's president of the Rutherford Institute. He's also the author of numerous books, including Battlefield America and A Government of Wolves. For years, John has grown increasingly concerned about aggressive police tactics that he believes infringe on the constitutional rights of Americans. Now, with citizens and police clashing and numerous incidents over coronavirus restrictions, we want to get John's analysis of what we're seeing. And John, thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me on, sir.
Well, this is certainly not an exhaustive list, but just in recent days, we've seen the incident in Texas, Odessa, Texas, I believe, where a bar owner was defying the governor's order not to reopen. She wanted to reopen, and she had some Second Amendment folks there with their firearms, and we saw a SWAT team of police response. We also saw a video of New York police tackling people on the sidewalk for not properly social distancing. We also seen some video of parents being arrested at playgrounds, which were taped off. Also a Wisconsin incident where police scolded a mother for letting her child play with the child down the street. So first of all, do you think we're seeing just a few isolated incidents that happen to get captured on video? Or is this the tip of the iceberg because there's probably a lot more incidents that didn't get on video?
Oh, I believe this is the tip of the iceberg. In fact, I would say that what we're seeing happening right now is the wake-up call for Americans. And if they don't wake up, we're moving into I would call a martial law state. And we've been in it for a while because if you look at what police have today, you talk about SWAT teams, what we saw in Odessa. With the MRAPs, they have grenade launchers, local police now. They work with the FBI. Their SWAT teams are military trained. Anything that Americans want to do today, if the government does not want them doing, they can shut it down. And we're seeing that. And it's people wanting to reopen their businesses and small businesses, by the way, and trailers or whatever. And you're having police show up again with all their equipment, threatening people, arresting people and things like that. So what we're seeing is clearly something, though, that's been coming for years and things I've been writing about, such as we go back 10 or 15 years ago when all the SWAT teams raided, and I started telling people, wake up. There are 80,000 SWAT teams annually in America where they're killing dogs, kids, going through doors, and the mainstream media doesn't cover it. So we're in a terrible state right now, and I will say this again, this is the wake-up call, America. Wake up.
Talk a little bit more about why the firepower concerns you so much. Some Americans might listen to that and say, well, the police should have enough to subdue the bad guys. So why don't they need this
stuff?
Or why shouldn't they have it?
That's the question, but who are the bad guys? In any government situation, the bad guys are people who speak back. What did George Washington tell us? He said, do not have a standing army on American soil. Well, folks, we have it. We violated everything the Founding Fathers gave us. I mean, they don't want you to have firearms. They don't want you to have Second Amendment rights. Listen, they're telling people you can't have property, basically, when they're shutting down businesses, and that violates the Fifth Amendment. It says our property should, our rights, we can't be deprived of our life, our liberty, our property, without due process of the law. They're making fiat orders now. There's no due process to any of this. We're not getting to argue it. We're not getting heard. So they're doing whatever they want to do. And with the SWAT team raids and stuff like this, I mean, it's come out, it's hitting people in the face now. And I mean, the bad guys, who are the bad guys in these situations? Was Duncan Lemp a bad guy, the guy that they shot several weeks ago in Maryland in his bed because he was a Second Amendment advocate, something that we stood up for and basically told the prosecutor to back off. The prosecutor said his family would be fined $5,000 and put in jail for a year if they did a social distancing protest at the courthouse. This is what we're seeing. Our First Amendment rights are being eviscerated. Our Fourth Amendment rights are gone, folks. When you have SWAT teams that can bust through people's doors in the middle of the night and end up shooting kids, and all kinds of things that we're seeing, and again, go to our website at Rutherford.org. We detail this stuff all the time and document it. Listen, we're in a really bad shape. And again, you say the bad guys? Well, the people I see getting killed are not the bad guys. The guy in his bed who gets shot by the police. I call that an execution, by the way.
We're talking with John Whitehead of the Rutherford Institute. And John, the other argument that you're going to hear is that, look, this is not the normal time, but states give governors and perhaps other officials emergency powers. And as long as those emergency powers are in effect, they are able to make these orders, and even see some of the police kind of giving sheepish explanations for what happened here. They might not necessarily disagree that much with the business owners or the folks in the parks that they have to that they're dealing with, but they say, well, this is the law, the order right now, so I don't have a choice. My job's to enforce the law, not make the law or decide what is the right law. So how do you respond to that?
All right. When you police tell me they're enforcing the law, I've asked a couple cops. I say, what's the law? And they'll cite some law. And I'll say, wait a second. The law you're supposed to be enforcing is the Constitution. And most of them I talk to have no idea what's in the Fourth Amendment. They don't understand the First Amendment. So the law they should be enforcing to the hilt is our rights, our constitutional rights. And they're not doing that. They're undermining them totally. I mean, again, we have a standing army on American soil. We're in martial law already, folks. If you step out of line and a government official wants to shut you up, they'll send a SWAT team to bust through your door. And you know what? 80% of those SWAT team raids are where police used to show up, knock on your door with a warrant. Now they don't do that. They just go crashing through your door. And you know something? They make a lot of mistakes. Many times they're in the wrong houses, and people get hurt very badly because they're in the wrong home and because they're violating our Constitution. So when a cop tells me he wants to enforce the law, I say, please do it. Why don't you abide by the Fourth Amendment, the First Amendment, and the Fifth Amendment?
How should this look? In other words, what is the proper role, in your opinion, for police? How do we maintain safe communities while also protecting our rights?
The proper role for police is, again, protecting our rights. If a governor issues an unconstitutional order, in my opinion, police should not follow it. No, they shouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it if I was a cop. I'd say, hey, wait a second here. And the police, and there are a number of sheriffs across the country who are saying they're not going to do that. And that's a good movement in the sense that you have people with government salaries, government agents saying, we're going to follow the Constitution. We're not going to follow so-called law and order. And you know something, that phrase law and order, what in the world is order? It's what the government wants. And the thing is, the fellow who wrote our Bill of Rights, James Madison, said we ought to mistrust all those in power. You never know if the government's telling the truth. And how many times have we been fooled? Just go back in history. The times government agents have lied about things and gained power, and they don't care about our rights. Again, I talk to people high up in government, by the way. They have no idea what's in the Constitution. They take an oath to defend it, but they can't tell you what's in it.
So what can people do about it?
I think what we need is local mass movements around the country, people going to the courthouse, standing around the courthouse. You got to be willing to get arrested, but do it nonviolently. And I'll tell you why nonviolently. One, it's because you don't want to kill people. But the other thing is they'll blow you away. Towns of 5,000 people now have MRAPs, grenade launchers, sniper rifles, and military equipment. Police do. So it's going to be very, very difficult. But they fear nonviolent movements where people get together in mass movements. Take over your city councils and stop these raids on people's homes.
What do you make of the media in this situation, John? Because I don't want to speak with a totally broad brush here, but for the most part, the mainstream media seems to be very sympathetic to those who don't want to reopen and generally treat those who do want to reopen as being something akin to reckless. Is that your assessment as well? And what influence do you think that has?
Well, it depends on what reckless means. I mean, is it really reckless? I mean, give me the facts, give me the evidence. There's a lot of stuff out there on this virus that we don't know about, we haven't been informed about, they're not telling us about it. No. So we don't really know. What I think the government should do in these situations is give guidelines. And most people will follow those guidelines. And the thing we don't want to lose is freedom of movement in this country, freedom of property, and the right to speak back to the government. And those things are being taken away right now. Again, I'll say it, this is the wake-up call. Wake up, because if we don't during this time, we're being changed, by the way. With all the surveillance that's being, and we're going to be writing more on this in a couple of days, all the surveillance is coming at us right now. This is increased surveillance. They're watching everything you're doing right now. If you make the wrong mistake, say the wrong thing, you can get arrested and get a SWAT team raid inside your home.
John, I do want to shoehorn one final question in here because listening to all this, some might conclude that you are anti-police. I don't believe that's how you see yourself. So how would you respond to someone who listens to this and says, well, John Whitehead just doesn't like the police?
I'm not anti-government. I'm pro-civil liberties. And there are a lot of good police out there that I've worked with over the years who actually call me and tell me they don't like what's happening with a lot of the police agencies today with all the military equipment. They're against it. And like I say, there are a number of police officers across the country that are resisting this. So no, because you stand up for rights don't mean you're anti-government, anti-police. That means you're pro-rights and pro-people.
John, we'll leave it there. Thank you, sir, very much for being with us. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
John Whitehead is president of the Rutherford Institute. He's also the author of numerous books, including Battlefield America and A Government of Wolves. I'm Greg Corombos reporting for Radio America.